The portal is open, and boy, oh boy, is it wild for both basketball and football.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson Yoxheimer. Thanks for tuning in, making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast and available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for your support. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and make every moment more. Join today, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Where we get started today is a note. I am not really going to touch on it today, but because it happened right before the podcast, and it's all in the theme of transfer portal craziness, why not? It is the likes of Collin Schlee for UCLA football. I haven't talked too much spring practice lately. I haven't talked about the Bieniemys who talked with the media, the Deshaun Fosters, and this 2024 football team, but Schlee has officially enter the portal. I was looking on Twitter, X, whatever you call it. Max Olson talked about the Athletics, saying Schlee has entered the portal as a grad transfer because the portal is not open, but he enters as a grad transfer. I saw something from Pro Report leaning that it was going to happen, but now Schlee is on the move. But now we're talking portal stuff, right? Because it's going crazy. Schlee, he leaves. That leaves the door wide open, it seems like, if it wasn't already, for Garbers to start as he battles Justin Martin. Now to the hardwood. UCLA, they've lost 2, gained 2. And if you compare and contrast those roster spots, it's definitely an upgrade. Guys, I would have loved to see have more time. Guys, I would have loved to see gain more opportunity. But that's just not the case in this day of college basketball. Players who stay 4 years are few and far between. And unfortunately for the Bruins, we'll talk about those guys leaving in the second segment. Because who's coming? I talked about this in a previous week, in a previous episode of Locked On UCLA. Cronin had a crystal ball for Louisville transfer in Skyy Clark, a guy who can score, shoot the three better than just about everybody on the UCLA roster, takes a lot of them, and most importantly, his last game was his best in the ACC tournament, where he put up 36, shot ridiculously well from three and from the floor, in which I already talked a lot about what Mick Cronin was going for from a guard standpoint. He put up big numbers against now current Final Four participant NC State, which means that performance from Clark looms even larger as he comes in, commits to UCLA on a Wednesday evening in the first week of April. No April Fool's joke there. And that's what I was talking about. UCLA wanted to go in, get better shooters, better guard play to bolster the backcourt. And I know he's got Bereke, Mata, and Bona all trying to figure if they're leaving, going back home, going to the portal, going to the NBA draft. That's a whole different thing we're waiting to figure out. Currently, Cronin says we must upgrade our guys. And I think Cronin went shopping first before he told some guys to get packing. Now, it was only a matter of time before certain guys left, but him getting Clark is huge. Because first, the Louisville transfer, who I believe initially committed to Kentucky. You could go through the whole rigmarole there. Skyy Clark is an LA kid. And last time Cronin went and found a transfer from somebody playing basketball in the state of Kentucky, it worked. So I'd like for him to figure it out. Clark committed to Kentucky, went to Illinois, then transferred to Louisville, and now he's at UCLA. Is that a lot of baggage? Is that a lot of craziness in this new day and age where the NCAA allows 2-time transfers? Sure, but a 6'3" guard who can shoot it and score, I think Cronin is willing to take some baggage. He's going to bark. If it's not going to work, it's not going to work. He'll say, get out of town. But this is a guy who can score the basketball. 36 to end his season against NC State. 13 points per game this year. UCLA is hard-pressed to find anybody to score that many on average this year until a Dylan Andrews superstardom finish to end the season. So you got a good guard who can score the basketball, still needs to get better at not turning it over, but Clark, ball dominant, and can score. An upgrade from what they have, can shoot the free throw at 77%. Now, a wonder is his defense, efficiency, and his ability to work with Mick Cronin. That is the first. That's someone who was already crystal balled to UCLA. I figured, all right, the Bruins are going after guards. The shocking news, and we'll even touch more about USC later as well, was current Trojan team captain in Kobe Johnson coming over to UCLA for his final year of eligibility. Two-time All Pac-12 defensive guard, Pac-12 defensive team. And this is a guy who scored 10 points per game, defensive whiz almost for USC, hidden in all the drama and the Bronnies and the Colliers and the Enfields leaving for USC. He hit the portal. I certainly didn't think that was going to happen, but he flipped sides, trades his colors to go blue and gold for UCLA, and that's significant because someone who can play D, a 35% three-point shooter, improves the Bruins' ability to score from the 2, 3, maybe 4 if Cronin wants to play small, and defensively increases the defense on UCLA, right? You get more athletic, someone who's played in the tournaments, and a natural leader, as he already was in that USC locker room, which certainly has had its ups and downs. Tournament to under 500 this year for them, just like the Bruins were. This is a really good, I think, 1-2 punch for Mick Cronin to get. To get Clark, all right, yeah. Shooter, he's been around, okay. Cronin's taking a chance on that one. Kobe Johnson, leader, 6'6", defender, passer, scored 10 points per game this year, which, yes, it's not mind-blowing, but you think about, all right, from 3, shot about 30%, 40% from the floor. You're not asking him to go score 15, 20 points per game, but it certainly is going to lighten the load and lather a little bit. For a team that was so atrocious at shooting the 3 ball this last season, getting any perimeter scoring, anybody to score the basketball, that's an increase. For Johnson, who his last 4 games, 15, 19, 14, and 14. That includes an upset win against Arizona, where he scored 19 points, his last ever game, interestingly enough, in the Galen Center in the Trojan uniform, and then in ultra minutes against Washington and Arizona, part 3, 14 points and 14 points. So he found himself on a strong scoring surge to end the season, including 7 of 8 for Johnson to end the year in double-figure scoring, playing a lot of minutes. He also, Kobe Johnson, total of 68 steals. Want to know how many turnovers he had this year? 65. He had more steals than turnovers. So that's somebody creating possessions than he is giving away possessions. Doesn't include the amount of blocks. Had 25 blocks. Assists, 101. So he's got more assists, a good assist to turnover ratio as a guard, more steals than turnovers. The team captain from your bitter rival. So you got a scorer, a defender, a leader, while you're ushering out 2 players, right? Lon Feeble is leaving and Will McClendon is leaving. I'll talk about that in the next segment coming up. But these are 2 great gets for Cronin. Even if Clark doesn't work, because he's still got a couple of years of eligibility, Johnson's a sneaky steal where if the Bruins can maybe keep Bona, if they can keep the right pieces, this is a team that if they've learned the lessons, they develop, can be very dangerous in their first year as a Big Ten conference foe and maybe go on a run in the 2025 tournament. You know, take their bruises, suffer through this tough season that we had in 23-24, mature, hopefully grow, keep some guys, add some guys, which Cronin has. I think keeping Bona would be huge. This team would be on a short list at a premium contender next year for UCLA with what they've brought back, who's got the experience. You mix that all together, Cronin can get them to gel over hopefully a full offseason, not worrying about paperwork. That could be a dangerous team. With Andrews, Stefanovic, you've got, I mean, we're not sure about Bona right now, but you got Andrews, Stefanovic, Clark maybe slotting in there. Johnson's easily in that starting lineup defensively. You've got maybe, Devin Williams, who can be a backup big. Adai and Bettercare still there. So until guys either leave or stay, the backcourt is looking a lot better than it did a year ago. It can be solid. Andrew's going to play a lot of minutes. I love Vide as a backup. Clark there to score. Sebastian Mack currently. That's a lot of options that hopefully with some maturity, some growing, can score the ball a lot better, shoot it, I think, much better, and be a lot more confident in 24-25. Those 2 gets alone, transfer from Louisville, transfer from SC, man, that is big. And you look at the guys who are coming out, where to look right now at Feeble. I think a missed opportunity for Cronin. McClendon, who I would love to see be a 4-year player for UCLA, overcoming the injuries, but that's not going to be the case. We'll talk about that next on Locked On UCLA. All right, I know the sports calendar is loaded, the end of the tournament. You got baseball. Lots of spring sports about to head into postseason play, and FanDuel's making it even more exciting to get in on the action because right now new customers get $200 in bonus bets when you win with any $5 bet. That's $200. You can use that money to bet the tourney. We're heading to the final weekend. MLB, NBA, NHL, and much more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Again, that's FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a big win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, cruising on here at Locked On UCLA. Zach with you guys. Segment 2, who's leaving the Mick Cronin roster? I already told you Elon Feeble and Will McClendon. Some might be guys you loved with their development. Some you saw a lot of promise. But when you look at what's coming in, I already talked Kobe Johnson coming in 10 points per game, 30% from three, is a great defender on the Pac-12 all-defensive team twice. You've got Sky Clark, who, despite bouncing around quite a bit, 13 points per game, 40% from the floor, 35% from three. You're not going to miss the 35% from three from Will McClendon because you're bringing one in. So Will McClendon comes in after devastating knee injuries, devastating injury to overcome through the COVID years and struggling, right, to come in. First year, it just wasn't a fit for UCLA to have McClendon there because he was battling, just testing the waters to get on the court. This year, in limited starting opportunities, but plenty of playing time, comes in 35% from three, 34% from the floor, about 4 points per game. Maybe not always the most agile or athletic defender when you compare him to a Kobe Johnson. So you see what McClendon, where those minutes are going to go, that's going to go to a guy who can score probably better with the ball, though he's going to require the ball in his hands in Clark. And then you've got a defender who is, you look at McClendon, stands 6'3", redshirt sophomore, devastating knee injuries. And I know the brace isn't really a factor, but the 6'6" Kobe Johnson, that is a huge guy to bring in to upgrade defensively. Not saying that's anything against McClendon, but that's an overall upgrade for this lineup. Who can shoot the three decently, and UCLA needs more decent three-point shooters, but McClendon's gone. I talked about him in one of the more recent episodes here on Locked On UCLA. Would love to see him seem potentially like a candidate to go, and that is quite a few minutes that are going to be up for grabs. Whether someone in the starting lineup is going to be demoted, that could be a Jan Vide fit in terms of him taking McClendon's minutes. I wonder where those are going to be dispersed across the court. Maybe Mick Cronin's not going to have to play Dylan Andrews 40 minutes a game, so some guys are going to grab minutes here and there, and if certain guys aren't on the floor, the Bruins can hopefully still be both productive offensively and defensively. So Cronin, you see McClendon, who I believe told 24/7 Sports, he is heading to the portal. We'll see if anything changes, if there's withdrawal of any sorts, but it seems like his time as a UCLA Bruin is done. So Kobe Johnson, maybe replacing some defensive parts. You bring in Sky Clark to replicate the 35% from three. And then McClendon, you get two guys, same size, even bigger. That's one thing. Then you've got Elon Feeble, who is one of the more puzzling cases this year for UCLA. 6'6", 200-pound freshman guard from France, who had some big moments, it seemed like, brief stints, had 25 minutes against Lafayette, 18 minutes against LIU, 18 minutes against Gonzaga, including 6 points, looked uber athletic. I thought was impressive in limited time in the Maui Invitational. And then after that, was hard-pressed to find any time. 25, 18, you see those big minutes, 9 big minutes against Marquette, played against Chaminade. Gonzaga was out there. Gonzaga ended up being a really good team, even though they went up and down this year. The Bruins could have beaten the Marquettes of the world, the Gonzagas of the world. Then really didn't play many minutes after that. He started the year, did Elon Feeble in the first, 6 or 7 games, at least 5 games with 12 or more minutes. After the calendar turned to middle of December, maybe 1 or 2 games where he played 10 or more minutes. And the bulk of the season is played from the middle of December on into early mid-March, especially this year when the tournament started even later with spring. His minutes went down to 1 minute, 0 minutes, just appearing in a game, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, athletic defensively, athletic to rebound the ball. There are games against Gonzaga. He made ridiculous rebounds, was super long and athletic. We thought that was Jalen Clark 2.0. But instead, you bring in a wily veteran like Johnson, team captain. You take that defensive prowess in only for a year, though, which is why I wonder, is Mick Cronin selling out Johnson to go for a year? versus what went wrong in that locker room or what he did not like between Feeble as to why he was stapled to the bench for so long, I'm not entirely sure. But that relationship just went sour for some reason, whether he didn't think he was ready or something off the floor. I have no information, but it was just super confusing as to why it did not work and he could not get consistent minutes when he clearly could have developed a lot more, served UCLA defensively in games where they couldn't score, and sometimes put up a decent three-point shot. I mean, he was only 2 for 10, but there's a couple of times it looked like he had a nice stroke. Would love to see him shoot the ball a lot more. Only 23 attempts, 43%. His athleticism is what stood out, where if he got some opportunity, maybe could have developed this year. Only averaged a point per game. So the two guys coming in, averaging Skyy Clark, 13 points per game, Kobe Johnson, 10 points per game, defensive all Pac-12 team. You see your 35% three-point shooter go. That's where Clark comes in. Although you wonder about the coachability with so many stops, that's something to look at, the intangibles off the floor coming in, how that's going to be a fit with Cronin, because you just saw Feeble just hit down, left down, came in hyped, he's gone. McClendon comes in, 3-point, that's replaced. Johnson, defensive, athletic. You compare him to Feeble, 3 years versus 1 year. Cronin says, all right. Another guy goes out, one guy comes in. The Bruins are looking loaded and ready to go for 24 and 25. So the guys leaving, UCLA's upgraded with two guys taking those spots. Now, where are the minutes going to go? Who will be unhappy at this time next year? That is a good question. Now, if Bona stays, there will be some unhappy dudes losing minutes next year. If they go small, go big, play with Bona at the 5, there's not a lot of room to wiggle with between the guys who play a lot of minutes, the Stefanoviches, the Dylan Andrews down the stretch between Mack, Clark, Johnson. Like, there's going to be minutes. Where's Cronin going to shuffle it? There's ways, absolutely, and still trying to think through it at this moment. There might be movement, but the rest of it, the domino effect, is going to be from Adem Bona. I think the backcourt is set. Vide staying, Stefanovic guys coming in, new upgraded roles for Andrews in a sophomore season, now heading into his junior year. He did well at the end of the year. Clark coming in. I believe the backcourt is set. Now, who is going to be happy with limited playing time next year? That will be something to be said later on in the summer, in the fall, and heading into winter when the Bruins are a Big Ten conference playing basketball team, which is still weird to say. But the rest of the domino effects for UCLA basketball's roster is all going to come down to Adem Bona's decision to play in the NBA. Because I think that's what's going to affect Mata. That will affect Bereke. Not that Bereke is going to play the 5, but something along the lines of, is Cronin going to lose 2 of those freshmen from last year, 3? I'm not sure he's going to lose all of them. We hope Devin Williams gets even stronger, bulks up. He could be somebody that improves. The next domino is Adem Bona. Does he stay or does he go? And that's where Mick Cronin has already been saying, hey, you're not ready yet. It's clear Bona could stay another year or 2 and be one of those dominant big men. Heck, Edey stayed all those years. Dickinson cashed in on his NIL deals and stayed quite a few years. Why can't Bona do that? Add to his game. Add a more consistent jump shot to his game. Less foul trouble. That would be something. This is my plea for Bona to stay the reigning Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year, who could just bolster a strong defensive unit, which would be even better than last year's team, and a unique offensively skilled group. I'd like to see how it plays out. I wonder how it does. With Feeble leaving, McClendon leaving, the guys coming in, let's keep our eyes and ears peeled to and glued to what's going to happen, right? Bona is the next thing. The next thing we're talking about, though, here in Locked On UCLA, something across town, though. The Bruins plucked Kobe Johnson, but something dark and sinister is brewing across town. And I don't mean that in a bad taste, but Eric Musselman replacing Andy Enfield. That's scarier than it looks. And what Bruins fans might not even understand it. That's scary because Musselman, coached the Warriors, all those things. We're talking about that next. And what it could mean in this West Coast war for transfers, recruiting, in the next stage of the UCLA-USC basketball rivalry on Locked On UCLA. let's turn our attention to talk about Fire TV because it's your destination for sports, live games, highlights, in-depth analysis. They offer amazing experience because with Fire TVs, hey, you've probably heard of it, but if you haven't, the Fire TV stick, plug it into your TV, access to millions of movies and TV episodes, including free and live TV. Whether it's the opening week that's just about to end for baseball, the end of the tournament, you want to have a Fire TV because they now have Fire TV channels. Got the latest constant supply of your favorite sports brands all for free, including here us at Locked On. And you can dive into all the great highlights, analysis, and more with March Madness ending, the playoffs with the NBA, NHL, MLB starting. Hey, it might be showtime, but it's go time to go check out Fire TV, Amazon.com/Locked On Fire TV. Again, if you want to learn more, Amazon.com/Locked On Fire TV. All right, final segment of the Locked On UCLA podcast today. The theme here in April, this episode, our first episode of April. Yeah, it's been a little lackluster. Sorry about that, folks. Still going on the car shopping front. But here we go. We're talking basketball all day long with just a little brief snippet of the Colin Schlee heading to the portal as a grad transfer, someone who I thought could have worked with UCLA in a unique role with Eric Bieniemy, but whatever the Bruins saw, and however it worked, Schlee thought, you know what, I'm not going to back up. I'm not going to be this third string. Maybe Bieniemy's not going to play this weird role. He's out of town. We'll talk more about that later Locked On UCLA episodes. Now, we're talking with Eric Musselman, right? A different Eric, the new head coach of UCLA. Because Andy Enfield leaving USC for SMU was interesting. Why are we talking about USC? Because this means it's a new war. Cronin respected and battled Enfield in these last few years and quite honestly struggled to consistently beat him, right? In recent years, the Bruins couldn't always sweep. They smacked a somewhat injury-prone, injury-filled, and riddled roster in the Galen Center. I was there cheering them on. But when the Bruins had a hyped crowd, had everybody there, USC a little bit healthier, came in and ran out of Pauley Pavilion with a win. Bruins came back down, tied it, and they lost an ugly defensive affair. So now that Andy Enfield's gone, one wonders, can the Bruins beat him, or they didn't get stuck with Eric Musselman and his high-energy, high-octane style that's led to success, a little brief success, battling the likes of Greg Popovich in the NBA's Coach of the Year award way back in the early 2000s, and recently with Nevada. Remember the Martin Twins and the Nevada teams that went deep in the tournament? Fell a little short to the Ramblers of Loyola Chicago, but they're top 10 good. Nevada probably could have had a lot more of a dream start. No, we're not talking Steve Alford right now. It's Eric Musselman. And then in Arkansas, remember recent years, would knock off 1 seeds and get to the Elite Eight for a program that hadn't gone that far since the mid-90s, took them 20, 30 years. Musselman, despite a poor last year in Arkansas, under 500, that seems to be the theme, right? UCLA, SC guys who have opportunities to do more. Musselman comes across town. He will hit the portal hard. Now, whether it's trying to get guys to come back, stay, I have no idea what's going on with the Bronny James saga. I just know the intensity is going to go to the next level. Both teams going to the Big Ten alongside Washington and alongside Oregon. But this intensity, Musselman brings Mick Cronin-level intensity in your face, loud, demonstrative on the sideline. Right? It's not Dunk City, Florida Gulf Coast that Enfield came from and had a solid couple of runs taking SC deep. No, this is something that Mick Cronin better be ready to handle. Starts off on the day SC hires their head coach by officially seeing the SC captain come over and commit to UCLA. Right? That's a good start, but let the games begin. Right? This is going to be an all-out war recruiting on the West Coast. I think he's going to go after the top tier guys and might even be more successful than Cronin is. And if Cronin can't get an offense, Musselman will find ways to do things. So this is going to be a big test, battling what is going to happen. I believe in Cronin and his ability. I'm not trying to be like, oh, Musselman's the greatest thing, the greatest gift to this earth. No, but it's interesting. They did not miss, I think, with this hire. And the fact that it's important is because I wonder what Mick Cronin's going to do. It initially pivoted recruiting-wise, going international. Now you got a guy who is going to hit the West Coast, I think, extremely hard going on the trails, getting there, hit the portal hard. If Mick Cronin tries to stick in his ways and be like, this is how we do it, you might see UCLA fade below USC a little bit if Cronin's not open to change and does not climb and rise to the level of this challenge. Because this is, I think, a significant higher across town. And if Cronin does not have immediate success like next year in the Big Ten with guys who are coming back, the transfers he's brought in, it could be a bit dangerous. But this is a real big-time opportunity for UCLA, and the rivalry, I think, is going to get even greater. I think Musselman will bring a lot of energy, and the UCLA fans, we should bring a lot of energy, and it'll be even more intense. I know it was sold out a couple of times. I think this rivalry might go to the next level. I'm not sure what that level is. Maybe it's early 2000s when SC had the teams that could have gotten to the Sweet 16 Elite Eights. UCLA had those teams that are going to the Final Four. They could be both that good, getting top-tier recruits at the same time. Now, that would be special. And maybe you might have two teams out in the West running the Big Ten, right? ED, Purdue, they're probably going to be done. You got guys in the Big Ten, all right, the Michigan States, cool. Big Ten basketball is about to get really entertaining. Who cares about the Big 12? Who cares about Zona and KU and all that? No. Big Ten basketball is about to get even greater. The Oregons, the Washington, this is going to be a fun West Coast basketball quartet heading into the Midwest. And I wonder Mick Cronin what he's going to do, right? He's making moves in the portal, but what's his mentality like recruiting? Is it still like it was with the Samovich time, brief time though, hitting internationally, or is he done with that? Is he going after top-tier West Coast recruits, or are you going to let Musselman deal with guys who might be deemed knuckleheads or not Cronin fits and still super talented guys? I wonder where that is going to move in the future. And most importantly, I think the rivalry is going to be even more intense. Not that Cronin cannot coach Musselman, but I think there's just an energy and sheer passion that he brings. The Cronin, of course, always brings it. That will be entertaining to see those two guys. I think if they have a disagreement, they will butt heads, and that can be an utter awesome moment on social media, on national television. I can't wait to see these coaches go at it recruiting-wise, X's and O-wise, and just bringing the level and the energy of this game to the next level, where it's not just quiet fans sitting on their hands, coaches devising big-time game plans, putting fans in the stands. Yeah, you heard me. And if you want to hear me, hit that subscribe button, download all the episodes, and thanks for your support. We're talking a little bit more football spring practice. We'll probably dissect the quarterback room after College Slee hit the portal. Heck, we're going to talk the women's preview for next season. What does that mean after they fell a little bit short and go a little deeper into Corey Close? And, of course, Adem Bona. What is that next domino going to do for UCLA basketball into 24-25? That will affect what Cronin does in the portal or doesn't moving forward. All right? But in the meantime, get your hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA, fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked on UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.